Yeah, and then we're recording the meeting as well.
Sorry, Raj.
You're good. You're good, Jack. And bear with us on any technical difficulty you might have. We're going to do our best. But this event is a part of our effort to have more dialogue in our community here at KUMC and have a better dialogue on diversity and inclusion and issues pertaining to policing. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce some of the people here. I'm not going to go one by one. We have several members of our campus police here. We have Dr. Geraldine McGee, our Dean of Diversity and Inclusion here. We have several members of our Student Governing Council, and I'm the president of the Student Governing Council. I don't know if I mentioned that. Yeah, so our structure tonight is going to be, we have some questions sort of lined up that are pre-submitted by students and different organizations on campus, and they're going to get a chance to ask those questions. Throughout the event, if you have some questions of your own, feel free to either put it in the chat and we'll get to it, or you can also directly message Beth Liu, and she's in the chat as well. So if you want that to be an anonymous question, you can go ahead and send that to Beth, and she will get that in. And Beth will also be sort of moderating the questions. So we're going to try to get, you know, we're not going to try to interrupt answers, but we do want to get to all the questions tonight. So that's kind of the structure of tonight, and that's what we've got going on. So to get started, if we've got a representative from SNMA to ask the first question here, we can get things kicked off.
Hi. So we actually had somewhat of a small presentation of the foundation of what we had arranged. I don't know if Flo would be able to share her screen because she had it. Is it only set to the host sharing a screen?
I can give Flo that access.
So Raj and Kiatana, do you mind if I first introduce the KUMC Police Department?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. So real quickly, I just wanted to take a moment to welcome the KUMC Police Department, who was, I don't want to say eager, but willingness, their willingness to answer the call without hesitancy to come and listen to the students' concerns, but also address the students' concerns. So I do want to take a moment to introduce them, and but I'd like to start with Stephanie. Stephanie, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Stephanie Webb. I'm Vice Chancellor for Administration for the Medical Center, and I'm also serving in the role right now as Associate Vice Chancellor for Public Safety Department, which includes our police force.
Thank you. Chief Powers?
Yes, I'm Jim Powers. I'm the Interim Chief of Police. A little bit about myself. I'm an Army veteran. Went to Truman State as well as Central Missouri for my master's. And I've been working here for 32 years.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chief Powers. Captain Holland?
Hi, this is Captain Holland. I've been with the university total 46 years, and I'm one of the 5 captains. I'm over strategic services, and I am honored to be here this evening to answer questions. And we're looking forward to collaborating with you guys on a more regular basis.
Great. Thank you, Captain Holland. Captain Gibson?
I'm Robert Gibson. I'm over Security Operations Division. Been with the department for 22 years. I look forward to our meeting today.
Thank you, Captain Gibson. Captain Reinhardt?
Hi, this is Kurt Reinhardt, and I am the captain in charge of the main campus patrol officers. I've been with the agency for a little over 10 years now.
Thank you, Captain Reinhardt. Captain Santiago?
Hi, I've been with the department for 12 years, and I'm currently assigned to the Strawberry Hill Behavioral Health Crisis Center, and I look forward to answering some questions.
Thank you, Captain Santiago. Captain Olson?
Hi, I'm Captain Brian Olson. I'm in charge of hospital security services. I've been with the department for 10 years. I never meant to be a cop. I have a master's in American history, but I enjoy the department and the job so much, I don't see myself doing anything else.
Wonderful. Thank you, Captain Olson. Sergeant Fisk, did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes. Christy, you're muted.
You're muted, Christy.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Sergeant Sisk. I'm the Community Crime Prevention Sergeant. I do a lot of safety presentations, student outreach, victim outreach, and you'll see me along campus. We have a brand new vehicle in case you do see us. I have a background in EMS. I've been an EMT since 2009, also police dispatch, and I've been an officer for a little close to 6 years now.
Okay, thank you so much. And I think lastly I think it's Corporal Longoria. Is that correct?
Yes, my name is Corporal Longoria. I'm the FOP president, and I am in the patrol section of our department. I work midnights here at KU, and I've been with the department 3 years, but I've been a police officer for a little over 7 now. I'm also a Navy combat veteran that served over in Iraq, so I have that I bring to the table as well.
Thank you so much for your service. Okay, is there anyone that I missed?
I think Dr. Samari has joined.
Is Dr. Samari? Okay.
Yes.
Hi, I would just want to thank SGC and Geraldine and all the public safety folks, and I'm here and just all ears. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Samari. Okay, and I'll turn it back over to the students. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Well, hi, my name is Florence Osei, and I'm also one of the co-presidents of SNMA, and I will share my screen now so we can start that presentation.
While she does that, I'll introduce myself. Thank you all for joining this evening. My name is Kiatana Square. I'm the other co-president of SNMA, and we kind of, so this conversation was basically orchestrated in a way to make sure that KUMC law enforcement and the students were a more cohesive unit. And so we kind of constructed some conversation around a letter that we as an organization, SNMA, previously constructed, and we had parts pertaining to the KUMC Police Department, mainly because this was areas where we felt that could be improved to eliminate bias and eliminate kind of issues, whether it be culturally, racially, or anything like that. So that's kind of what our discussion centered around for our presentation, at least. So.
Yeah, so to get started, so one of the first points of our letters was to make sure that the police were working together with the medical center and the community leaders so they could cohesively work on systemic racism and police violence on campus. And then also to us, it kind of seemed like the police training right now at KUMC was less engaging and not as active as it could be. And there's been some research centered on implicit bias training on policing and how it's consistently shown a reduction in bias, like less effectiveness with like less engaging programs. So the next point Kia can talk on.
Oh, yeah. So if you go to the next slide on the screen, there we go. So one of the things we noticed left a little bit of room of bias was part of the citizens complaint form when it comes to KUMC Department Police. So we noticed that it didn't have a easy method of reporting, basically, and there was somewhat more of an obstacle considering the only method for reporting had to be done by mail, and it was only sent to one place in Wichita per the research that we'd done. So we researched kind of a way that the police department handled disturbances or disagreements between police enforcement, law enforcement, and the citizens at KUMC. And it was basically reviewed by the Attorney General, but it was more so in a less, more of a way that could leave room for bias, essentially. So here we have that a previous complaint formed by a citizen against KUMC law enforcement. It was reviewed, yet no action came about. And this form is just one of the examples that we've done. It's from 2013, but essentially nothing was done about it, about the complaint. And that was because it was seen as, you'll see that was highlighted here. Basically, there was no evidence of, racial bias or any type of cultural bias, anything like that. Where we felt this was more so kind of awkward, because it was also like, in what way can you review the situation and deem it unbiased, yet it's an internal thing. So it kind of negates the idea. And so we wanted to understand more, what is the bias training around the KUMC law enforcement, and in what way, and there's a few questions that we have around this, but essentially how that's eliminated. Can you go to the next slide? So yeah, this is more of what I was talking about. And it's essentially talking about the issues with reporting for citizens and how the obstacles put in place and its lack of efficiency per se, since there is no web-based complaint form. It makes it more difficult for citizens to file a complaint. And then essentially, once there is a complaint done, what is exactly done about that? So what does that process look like, and how that process can be carried out in a more efficient and considerable way on both parties. So that was one of the second topics that we'd noticed.
Yeah, okay. So as an organization, we've come up with a few questions to pose to the police officers. So to start off the discussion, one of the first questions is, what are current methods that the KUMC police are using to eliminate racial/ethnic biases?
So I can tell you from the patrol side, as an officer that conducts traffic stops and interacts with the public on a day-to-day basis, all of our self-initiated contacts with the public, we document using a racial bias form. So we have the statistics to show how many interactions we've had with males, females, Black, white, Hispanics, the dispositions, were they arrested, were they given a warning? So all that stuff is tracked through our department as far as one of the methods we're using to eliminate that.
I wonder if anyone would want to speak about the training. So that was one of the first topics that you brought up, and I think it does relate to this. One of our folks from public safety want to get started on that, to share how we train, and any of you that would like to jump in. Actually, Captain Holland, the training is in your Strategic Services Division. Do you want to get started on an answer for the students?
Sure. The initial training that our police officers receive is 560 hours that they receive from the Kansas Law Enforcement Training Center. That's backed up by 14 weeks of training when they graduate from the academy. And our police public safety department, it's a PTO training, which is police training officers. And we go through that for about another 15 weeks. And on top of that, we provide additional training throughout the year. The training year begins July 1, and then it goes through June 30th. But we try to train all of our officers on bias-based training, defensive tactics training, firearms training, all the training that is required by the state. And we provide that to them on an annual basis. And my division is responsible for reporting the training, who the training instructors are, and also the number of hours that each officer receives. So they do receive training on an annual basis and also throughout the year. And we do document that, and it is public information as far as how much training each individual officer receives.
And to just piggyback on what Captain Holland's saying, I'm Captain Olson. I used to be the former training sergeant. One thing to add to that is that by Kansas law, all law enforcement officers are required on an annual basis to do racial bias training. That's state law. Also, when they go to KLATC, there's multiple curriculums. If I can remember correctly, there's actually one about a cultural sensitivity, about high and low context. you have to understand, what audiences you're dealing with, how people react to grief, to stress. That's something they emphasize. And then also CIT, they touch on that as well. That's actually, when it comes to crisis intervention training, that's more mental health. They do talk about a little bit. They touch on that as well. But the department does a pretty good job. We actually meet and we exceed what the state requires us to, just like Corporal Longoria stated. So we document all of that. So it's in our training files.
I wonder too if anyone from the department would like to talk just really about departmental culture and just like less the regulatory part of this and more as it relates to just the core values of the leadership and the members of the department. I think that's a really important component, is what's in people's hearts, not just what's in the regulations and all of that. Captain Santiago, will you take a crack at that one?
Sure. Here, I'm going to start my video. Okay. I think that, I know that it is important in our culture that we build
Speak up just a little bit.
Okay. I have a laptop, so I think all the leaders and chief have agreed that it's so important to build a culture of inclusivity, transparency, and trust. And that's what we've been working towards. And we still have more to go, but a lot of our initiatives have been to build that kind of culture within the department and also within the community. So if you remember, I don't know if any of you were around for our trust campaign. That was done a few years ago. That was important in building trust with the community. But we do focus and we do come up with any initiatives to work on our culture and sustain a culture of inclusivity and transparency and trust.
Wonderful. So students, that's the start of an answer. Do you have further questions to kind of guide what actually, in addition, you might be wanting to know about how we try to ensure unbiased, policing that's not racially biased or biased in any other way?
We do have a set of questions. Next will be Jack, if you would like to ask the next question.
Sure, and Vice Chancellor Webb, I think that is kind of in alignment with what you're asking. Is, I know you had mentioned the reporting system, but what continuous measures are used to continually evaluate potential sources of bias?
Who wants to take a crack at that?
This is Chief Powers. We do collect data, so there is some data-driven information available. I think what I appreciate, we're an accredited agency like Joint Commission, the hospital, the university is accredited. And through that process we open our books up to the outside. So we let other law enforcement professionals look at our data and evaluate that. So it's a transparent, gives an opportunity to see what we're doing. That data is also available to the officers. We try to get that out 2 or more times a year so they can see what they're doing.
Captain Reinhardt, would you like to talk about the data-driven nature of the department, and then any of you talk about how we use the data that we collect to drive improvements in our training and operations? Kurt?
Your mic's muted.
Can't hear you, Kurt.
Sorry, technical difficulties.
Is that better?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, I'm switching between the phone and the Zoom because my internet's a little slow out here. So as the patrol commander, I probably have the highest level of interaction with the bulk of the KUMC community, both on the hospital and university side. So part of what we do is we're looking at our call data. We're looking at how we interact with the public. We have a computer-aided dispatch system that allows us to look at the metrics for our calls for service, both calls initiated by the officer and then calls that are brought in by the community calling us. We also take a look at how we how our crime stats interact and
Sorry, we lost you.
Generally ourselves. And so all of this information, we kind of correlate it back to what we're doing. We not only look at the quantitative data, but also the qualitative data as well. So we're trying to look at what types of interactions. We look at individual officers, we look at divisions, those types of things. And then we meet as a command staff, and we meet with Stephanie quite frequently as well, to look at what we're doing, look at how we can do things differently and how we can do things better. This is all part of our CLIA accreditation. For those of you who are not familiar with CLIA, it's the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies. It's a voluntary program that we have been involved in now for, what, about 10 years, 8 years, something like that. And we have annual evaluations by them on certain standards that we have to prove we're meeting. And then every 3 to 4 years, they just change it to 4 years. They come in and they dig through all of our records. They look at everything we're doing, and then we get scored based on our performance. And I will tell you that invariably, we at the very least hit, but generally exceed their standards, and their standards are high to begin with. So what that says is that we're proactively having other people look at what we're doing, and they're comparing us against industry standards. And a lot of that centers around bias-based policing and the conduct and performance of the police officers within our community. One thing we always tell people is, or I do when I'm talking, we're the only police agency in the area that has 0 residents in our jurisdiction. Everybody either comes to work or comes to school for 8 to 12 or 15 hours a day. We have patients that stay here for several days or several weeks or just a quick appointment, but there really is nobody that lives here. And so that unique environment that we work in actually makes it pretty challenging for us to look at pure data. So what we also have to look at is the kind of the flavor of that data, and how are we doing given that nobody lives here and they come from literally hundreds of miles around because of the type of care that the hospital and the medical center gives. And so it's kind of a good thing, because it forces us to look at the data and also read into the data and take a look at what we're doing, because we can't just say we've got X percentage of this demographic group or X percentage of that. We really have to look at it. And what I think that does is it actually heightens our awareness to our community, and it allows us to adapt to the variables that change over time. We have a different population of students than we did 4 to 6 years ago. And that population change makes us change our approach based on the needs of the current community, not the community that was here 5 years ago. Is that kind of what you're looking for, Stephanie, as far as the...
Yeah, thank you. That's a good start. And then I'd just like if Sergeant Sisk would like to jump in and share anything about the community-based policing and crime prevention program that she is leading within Captain Holland's division.
Hi, Stephanie. Thanks for allowing me to share with everyone.
Sure.
My position is multifaceted. I focus on community outreach, community events. I manage the social media, as well as we reach out further we have a partnership with Wyandotte High School. It's inner city. We speak with the youth at the Thrive community meetings, as well as other members of our community to work on decreasing violence against youth. and how we can assist high-risk youth in mentorship, as well as giving them our insights on our community and how how high-risk youth, if we engage early, we can oftentimes, you know, lead them in a different direction. So we have some very high performing leaders, even in our youth, that we speak with. I also do the Camp Quality youth event, the law enforcement event, and I keep an eye out for other events around Kansas City. I attend local meetings at the Lenexa Police Department. They also have a group of community outreach sergeants and officers, and we meet and come up with new ideas that our community might be engaged in. We also do a lot of student events. Pre-COVID, we all, of course, worked with the Office of Student Life. That's a great division to work with because we get a schedule of the student events. You'll see me around the health education building as well. So yeah, we have a lot of different things that we do in the crime prevention division.
Thanks, Christy.
So we have some follow-up questions to the original about evaluating bias. So when bias is found in your department, what is done to address it?
So I will just to start off with that, and the others can jump in afterwards. But I don't know that we actually have had a complaint related to that before. That's why I'm hesitating, because could talk about what we would do in the event that we did have such a complaint. But Jim or Donald or Kurt or anyone, are you aware that we've?
No, I can answer their questions. I'm the one that submits the reports annually to the Attorney General's office. And for the last 8 years, we have not had any reports of any complaints of bias regarding our department. And also, if there are any complaints, initially we investigate it. And if it reaches a level where the Attorney General's office receives a complaint, then they would also investigate it alongside of our own independent investigation. Because I'm also over investigations as well as training, CALEA, and community crime prevention. So we look at all of our data on a daily basis. I'm over the records division as well. So I see all the data. I know how many people we come into contact with by race, by gender, by ethnicity. So we keep track of all of those records, and we can look at it. We verify if there was any complaints, we investigate, follow up on them, and then we have a resolution on those because we investigated thoroughly, and then we come up with a resource that we can use to make sure that we are following all the policies and the regulations that are stipulated by the state and also by our own policies.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, sorry. I'm like one of the students. I know that you guys mentioned that the thing is that there have not been any complaints in the past 8 years. And one of the things that the students have really been trying to like advocate for is the fact that that statement can be made only based on the fact that the complaint form isn't in a format that is modern to most people who would use complaint forms in other departments across the university that are online and pretty easy to submit. So I see how there are no complaints currently on record, but I feel like that can't necessarily be stated well if it's very difficult for the community to make the complaint.
On our department's website, there is the format where you could go to our website and electronically fill out a complaint. We do have that for our department, as well as a link to the Kansas Attorney General's office. So we do have that mechanism in place. So if someone wanted to make a complaint, they could do that.
So Ebony, what you're referring to is a standard complaint form. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I've just been like on the police website and the citizen complaint form from the biased and bias-based policing. I know you can like download like a form, and it mentioned that it could be submitted by mail or turned in like directly into the office.
So anybody can make a complaint against any officer for any conduct. It doesn't mean anybody that's on this call right now as a captain, as a chief, as a deputy chief, doesn't make a difference who it is. It can be the lowest ranking officer that you can go to and say you want to file a complaint. Now, if it's against them, then his supervisor would normally take that. But anybody can take that complaint. You could fill it out directly in front of them. We can email it to you. You can fill it out and then send it in, or you can drop it off to any police officer within the department. So it's ready, available to everybody. And maybe that's something we need to look at on our site to explain that anybody can make a complaint against any officer at any time.
Yeah, and actually, Ebony, after we received the letter from the SNMA, that really was good feedback that we had, that there needs to be a more modern, more interactive way to file a complaint without having to do anything in person. So, so we will be working with, I'm not sure exactly who in IT, but probably internet development, to be able to develop a fillable form online that can be completed and submitted. So we took that very seriously when we saw that, and that actually is something that is going to be relatively easy and quick to do.
This is Mariah. I'm also a student member of SNMA and Medical Student Assembly, and I have a follow-up question just to the data reporting overall that's been discussed here. So I understand that you all kind of have an internal review, determine if you're noticing any trends that may be problematic, and then you initiate a plan to address those. But the question I have that I haven't quite heard addressed so far is, are those trends made available? Are they? I was previously in SGC, and I know that SGC meets with members of the police force regularly, but I'm wondering if there is a reporting mechanism whereby members of the KUMC community receives a report that describes those trends, whether it's in raw numbers, whether it's in, showing that, yes, this is something that perhaps there wasn't a complaint about, but internally we recognize, and these were the specific steps that were taken to address, that's reported out to the community as opposed to just handled internally.
I don't believe so at this time. We haven't. Actually, this is maybe the first time that suggestions of this sort have come forward. And so it's really good to get the input from the student community and from other members of the campus community on ways that we can do better about engaging with the various groups on the campus, and information that people want to know. As Vice Chancellor for Administration, I'm responsible for the majority of the support departments on the campus. And traditionally, it has been that people have seemed to just want things to function in the background and not really have to think about or worry too much about it. They just need for things to work well, and they let us know when things are not working well, and we try to address those things. So we're kind of in new territory right now, I think, with people expressing interest in knowing more about how the police department is structured and how it functions, and really about data. So I think this is new for us, and unless anybody else from the team thinks otherwise, to my knowledge, we're just in new territory. And actually it's welcome, and as Jerry Lynn said at the beginning, we were very, very willing to be here, and she wasn't sure that we could say eager, but we actually were eager to be here and to start the conversation, and mainly to hear what it is that that this important constituent group needs, wants, and expects from us. So, I mean, I'm hearing right now data. It's very data centric right now, the conversation so far. So that's well noted, and we're open to, again, to what it is that the students need, want, and expect.
Yeah, I think that's a great segue into the next question. Diana, if you're yeah, Diana, if you wanted to go ahead and ask that.
Hello, my name is Diana Acevedo. I'm the co-president of the Student Diversity Council, and I want to know what methods are being used to promote a collaborative relationship between the police department and the KUMC community.
Well, let's start with maybe Captain Holland and Sergeant Sisk, who are over the community community engagement part of our department. And then anyone else who wants to jump in, please feel free. Captain Holland, do you want to start?
Sure. I'm over the community crime prevention program, which also includes Sergeant Sisk, and she goes out into the community. She provides support. She provides crime statistic information. She also provides safety tips to our community, and she has engagement with them on a weekly basis. So if there's any information that you guys need or would like to have, feel free to contact either myself or Sergeant Sisk, and we'll be more than happy to show you the information that we provide to the university community, because we like to have a lot of engagement with the folks at the university as well as outside agencies that require our assistance as well. So we're available to you for any information that you'd like to have, any defense classes. She also provides RAD classes, which is rape aggressive defense, and any other training, active shooter. She provides training on that, and also how to prevent from becoming a victim of a crime. So we're really engaged with our university community, and I'll let her talk to you a little bit more about what she actually does on a day-to-day basis.
Hi, thank you for your question. To answer, I do provide rape regression defense training. It's free to students, staff of our community. Typically, that's something that's provided several times a year. We did have to put that specific service on hold due to the COVID-19 social distancing requirements, but I'm excited to get back into it. It does truly, if I could name it in one word, it gives women the feeling of empowerment. It's actually defense against abduction training. We've had several women take my class, and they tell me, you know, wow, I didn't feel as worried walking to my vehicle or being at a store late at night. So that's another service we provide. We also, I primarily do outreach, education, and I also interview and follow up with victims of crime. Primarily, we see the number one crime in any jurisdiction is theft. It's a big deal right now because of the way that the economy is, the unemployment rates, and the COVID situation. So I've pushed out several initiatives through the EVC town hall meetings, as well as on campus, on our webpage, as well as the Facebook. So I invite and encourage everyone to check that out regularly. I do have a page there as well where I provide safety tips, and I'm open to meeting with students or staff with any questions or concerns they may have. The easiest way to reach me is by email. I have my email on my phone.
Does anybody else from our team want to add anything?
Yeah, I do want to say on Tuesdays, once we get back over this COVID, we're always approachable on Tuesday mornings between 8 and 9 with a coffee over in the Murphy Center or in the Murphy building. We never know who's a student, who's not a student, but we're always willing to talk to anybody that wants to talk to us about whatever issues are going on campus or anything you just have on your mind.
Yeah, for Jayhawk Break, Tuesday mornings at 8.
And then I see you on there. Ryan constantly invites us to different events that he has at the library. Depends on what the event specifically is. He usually goes through Christy for that, but we also get his emails. So we get the invitation to go to that. So we are out in the community. Just feel free to come talk to us anytime you want to.
Yeah, one other thing I wanted to say is that I think mainly the mode has been for our department that we're available and ready to respond to calls for service, calls for assistance when someone needs something. And I don't know that there's been an understanding or thought in the department that that people really want to engage with the police. And so it's a different, I just wanted to put that out there. It is, and that really, and especially in terms of the students, that probably they prefer just to be left to study and not, you know, to be bothered, and that we're there to serve when we're needed. But, and so I think maybe it's good to be having this conversation, because it's clear that there are different needs and expectations that we really, I don't think, have been fully aware of in the past.
We're a very proactive police department, especially on the patrol side. The stuff that we encounter and the problems that we start to recognize gets forwarded on to persons like Sergeant Sisk and Captain Holland, Captain Gibson, and the rest of our people in patrol and the administration side. And so when we recognize problems, stuff does get forwarded up to the proper channels. I feel we're a very transparent police department. And if you just ask questions, ask any one of us, we'll stop and talk, and we'll definitely, you know, address any concerns that you have. And if we don't have the answer, that's one of the best things about our police department, is the amount of resources that we have at our fingertips. We can go and access almost all that stuff through the websites that we all use, or we can go to some of the officers that is more their primary function.
Thank you very much. I have a quick follow-up question. I wanted to know, what is your approach to new students for different schools? Do you guys have like an orientation to guide them to do in certain situations?
Yes, ma'am. I also, this is Sergeant Sisk again. I do provide it's new student orientation with several of the schools. Many of the assistants of the deans have contacted me to schedule those appointments. Right now, we're trying to figure out, are they going to be virtual or in person? It just depends on the regulations on COVID right now. Typically, they book a room in the HEB or one of the larger conference rooms, and I do a police orientation, what to expect, what are the resources on campus with public safety, some general safety crime tips as well. So we do offer that training to new students. I can book any training anytime through email. That's the quickest way, and my Outlook calendar is up to date.
Thank you.
Sure, and I just want to add on to that, we really are open to other ways that we could be of service and assistance to the campus community, to our students. We just need to hear from you what you need and want.
Okay, thank you. And next question would be from Kyle.
And I think that provides a good transition. My name is Kyle, Ramp Starter, by the way. So my question is, what are some of the strategies that KUMC Police is going to consider to strengthen a relationship between the police department and minority students?
I'll just start off and then have everybody else jump back in. But again, I think that our understanding previously has probably been just in error, thinking that that we're there to serve when we're called to serve, and that otherwise that people would prefer really not to have the interaction. And so I think I'll just leave it there, and the others can jump in. But we, if we're welcome and it seems beneficial for us to engage, you know, proactively with people, then I think that we would really welcome the opportunity to do that. So I'll leave it to the actual police to fully answer.
Hi, and my name's Arlene, and actually, we were talking about it earlier when not everybody is on, but I applied to serve on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Cabinet and was selected. So I think that was an important first step for somebody from our police department to represent themselves, the department on that cabinet. So that's something new that we're doing to provide that equity and inclusion and that culture.
Okay, and I believe we just have the last question. Kia, if you
This
want
is Geraldine. May I add something to that?
Sure.
I think that I know that Darlene, well, Captain Santiago was going in and out, but I think what Captain Santiago was saying is that this coming year, she will be, actually she'll serve on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Cabinet for 2 years. And this is the first time we will have had someone from the KUMC Police Department on our cabinet. The other piece of that is that I think that's a great question that the students have posed, because I think not only on our campus, but I think around the country, one of the things that needs to be done is for the police to build a relationship with the communities that they serve. And Stephanie, I appreciate your response, because that's a really important piece. You're here to serve and you don't want to bother unless you're called. So I get it. That's also important. But I do think it's important for our police and for the community to bridge the gap, to build a relationship, so that that students, faculty, staff, everyone is comfortable, feels welcome, feel like they can call on the police, and that they have a trusting relationship with the police. So Darlene, I appreciate you bringing up the trust program that you had a few years ago. And I think that things like that, as well as continuing to build on the relationship, is really important, not only for KUMC, but I would say for police around the country as well. But I know today we're only focused on our campus, but I think that relationship and community policing, and have a relationship with people of color, especially in this day and time with everything that's going on between the police and the Black community, is really important to build that relationship.
And I know my mic is horrible, and I'm sorry, but what I wanted to say about that, we did discuss that we did do the trust campaign. It was very successful, but we haven't sustained the campaign, and we discussed coming up with strategies and ways to do that and sustain it in some component. So we are going to be working on that.
Thank you. And I think that would be great to build the relationship, the trust that's needed.
All right, so we have, okay, a follow-up question of what is the KUMC police doing to ensure that the officers have a deeper and more nuanced understanding of how racism and policing are intertwined, other than the annual bias policing learning, which is 70 slides with a multiple choice exam. So other than that.
Well, I have to say, if you look at our police department, we do have a very diverse police department, and we're in tune with the national climate and the things that are going on, both as minorities and police officers. We do try to educate ourselves also on how to better serve our community in that aspect. So it is something that's important to us, all of us, and we are definitely trying to make strides and come up with strategies and innovative ways to integrate and build that trust with the community.
Yeah, I mean, we do our very best to treat everybody with respect. It doesn't matter your race, ethnic background, your mental capability. I mean, everybody is treated with the utmost respect when we do these call for services, and we show up to sometimes extremely dynamic and heated situations. We're able to de-escalate a lot of these problems and do it in a very professional manner.
Okay, thank you. And now we'll move on to questions that were asked ahead of time anonymously. So what is the relationship that the KUMC police has with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE?
Jim, do you want to take that one? Chief Powers?
I I'm not sure on the relationship. If we come in contact with someone that they've that is wanted, like a warrant, that would have to be confirmed and be dealt with. We don't have a ongoing relationship with anybody in immigration, custom, ICE. It'd be an incidental contact, and they would be brought in. I don't know if I'm answering the question or not. That's not our job. It would just be through whatever incidental contact violation of law, like a Kansas law, municipal ordinance, and then somehow that would come up.
Okay.
We also interact with, like, depends on the consulate, depends on the situation. We will have to make a phone call. I think that's kind of where Chief was going with that. I don't think too many departments have direct, contact with the federal government, governments like that. It's on a case-by-case needed. If we have a situation where we have to call the consulate, we would have to get hold of the consulate to assist us with certain matters, or ICE or immigration. I just think it depends on the situation.
I would say that if something like that were to come up, that we actually would handle that through our Office of General Counsel, through our legal office.
It's a rare event.
Yeah, very rare.
Yeah.
So then a follow-up question to that would be if you all request proof of citizenship during incidental interactions.
No, that it would be simply a driver's license and we've even had in my tenure occasionally an international driver's license would come forth, or Mexico or Canada. Are you licensed to drive? That'd be a state or a state regulation we're trying to comply with.
Yeah, several years ago, it was kind of cool. I'm not sure if Chief Powers was with me, but we got invited to the Mexican consulate, and as soon as we stepped in the building, the representative basically said, "Welcome to Mexico." And that was something totally new to me and to several others, and we got a lot of information that way, and I had a good rapport with them at that time. So little things like that are very rare, but it was different.
Yeah, like our demographics definitely change after a certain time frame. So I work midnights, like I said. Sometimes we encounter on our traffic stops the Mexican ID cards or Mexican driver's license, but I mean, we don't ask for proof of citizenship. We just want to make sure you're in compliance with the driving laws in the state of Kansas.
Okay, thank you. And I think we'll just ask a couple more questions here to be respectful of everyone's time. To what extent do the KUMC police cooperate with local police departments? Would they ever assist them with staffing in other ways, such as during the recent Black Lives Matter protests when officers from multiple departments were called in to KCMO?
Chief?
We're a pretty small agency as far as being able to assist. The most common assistance, it wouldn't be for a protest or anything like that. But like an example of mutual aid, KU Lawrence, our sister campus, when they have a game, Final Four, we do go downtown Lawrence and help with that. We have an interest in taking care of the students. It'd probably be the other way around. If we had someone trying to damage the hospital, we would probably ask the city to help us. We'd want to protect our school and our medical care facilities.
Okay, thank you. And how's about lastly, what are the guidelines for police wearing masks and practicing social distancing when interacting with the public and each other? I've seen some police not wearing masks inside their cars with other officers or while working outside of their vehicles?
This is for Reinhardt. I can address that. So we follow all of the university and hospital protocols for masks and social distancing where we can. Obviously, when we have to physically interact with folks, the social distancing is not practical. One of the things that we do is when our dispatchers receive a call for service in one of the medical units in the hospital, their standard questions now include, do the officers need to wear PPE before they engage? And the medical staff has done pretty good about telling us, yes, you do, or no, that's a low risk. As far as out in the cars, if the officers by themselves in a vehicle, there's not a requirement to wear the mask. When they approach the vehicles, when tactically possible, they're supposed to put the mask on. However, if a situation is quickly evolving, they may not have the chance. But I mean, we want to keep our officers safe just like anybody else does, and we want to keep them from having exposure from the public or exposing the public. So they've been pretty good about being on top of that. And you know, we've been here through the worst of it before, and while the university was closed down and everybody was sent out, the police officers were still engaged. So we've kind of run the whole gamut of protection levels and things like that. But I think they're doing a pretty good job.
Okay, thank you. And all the other questions will be answered through an email sent out afterwards. And lastly, if Kia and Flo, you have any final thoughts or?
Are you asking from us?
Oh, no, Kia, SNMA.
No, thank you so much for joining our discussion. I think it was really helpful. I think you guys provided a lot of insight, and I hope it's a continuous conversation to make sure KUMC is a great place.
We want the same thing, and we welcome future invitations. I mean, we're happy to come to any forums that that we might be welcome at. So feel free to reach out anytime.
Absolutely, and everybody that works in our police department, we're very approachable. Like I said, any comments, concerns, you know, feel free to come up and talk to us. We like to engage with our people here at KU and the society that we serve. So.
Siraj and Kitana, this is Geraldine. May I say something real quickly before we close? I just want to take a minute to thank the leadership team, Stephanie Webb and Dr. Samari and Dr. Ojo and the KUMC Police Department for their responsiveness to answering the call and really wanting to listen and help and build the relationship, you know, with students. And I also especially want to thank the Student National Medical Association for bringing their concerns forward. I also want to thank SGC and LMSA and the Student Diversity Council for standing in solidarity with SNMA. I think that's very important. All of this says a lot about our campus, who we are, what we stand for. We've heard great information today. I think we have some work that we need to do, but I think most universities and most organizations do. And I know the students know me very well now, and I know they trust me and they know I wouldn't tell them anything different, but we work for and we learn at a great organization. And I think this is an opportunity for us to move forward together. And I just want to thank you and for everything that you've done and for bringing your concerns forward. That was very brave of you, but I'm not surprised because you all are amazing students. So I just wanted to say thank you before we close.
Thank you, Dr. McGee. That was a very good sum up. One last question I kind of had, just clarification. Chief Powers or anyone can answer. What's the best way if a student has a further question that they didn't think of or an inquiry? What's the one point of contact or the best way to contact you guys?
There is on the website, Ask the Chief. And it's an email. It goes to a couple of members on the team here. and we're pretty good about trying to answer right away, or at least letting you know we've received it and we're trying to find the answer.
Thank you. And Beth, is there any other questions that we missed?
There's a few, but again, we can send out an email afterwards just to be respectful of everyone's time.
Or we can meet again too. If you guys would like to meet again and continue the conversation, we'd be really glad to.
All right, well, on that note, I think that just about concludes this town hall. Once again, thank you to everyone for coming and participating. I think this was a great discussion, and as Kia mentioned, the first of many, we hope, and a continuing discussion that will only make our campus better going forward. And we want to be in the forefront of this and not, responding to things. So I think this is the first step, or one of the first steps we can be doing to make that happen going forward. So thanks to everyone. Thank you to the police department. I know everyone's busy, and we really appreciate you taking time out of your busy days. So, and that's all I've got for you guys.
Thank you for the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.